You feel the heat first. Not from a fire, not from a lamp. This is the heat of bodies pressed too close, the breath of strangers, the waxy smoke of torches held high as you are moved forward through a doorway you're not allowed to touch. You can't see clearly through the veil, but you can hear it. Laughter that's too loud. Songs that sound like blessings until you catch the crude edge in the words. You try to slow your breathing. You try to remember your own name. But the hands on your arms tighten, and the floor beneath you tilts as they lift you. You are carried, not guided, not welcomed. Carried, as if the house itself has decided you do not enter by choice. Then the veil shifts, and the room sharpens into focus. The bed is waiting. The air is thick with incense meant to make this feel sacred, and flowers meant to make it look soft. You hear the door behind you close with a quiet certainty, and in that sound you understand the truth nobody said out loud all day. The wedding is over, and now the ritual begins. Her name is Livia Emiliana, and by the time this night ends, Rome will expect her to be someone else entirely. Before we go deeper, tell me where you're watching from. Every time I share a story like this, it still amazes me how the echoes of the ancient world reach living rooms across the planet. Rome loved to display its civilization. It loved clean ceremonies, structured vows, polished public virtue. It wanted the world to see marble and law and order, not the raw mechanism underneath. Yet even Rome could never fully hide what marriage really was in its bones. A transfer of a woman from one authority to another, staged as a celebration. Roman wedding customs were famously rich in symbols: an escort procession, a ceremonial kidnapping from the father's home, a saffron bridal veil called the flammium, the knot tied at the bride's waist that only the groom untied, and the unsettling custom of carrying the bride across the threshold rather than letting her step over it herself. Those rituals exist in the historical record like bright paint on a wall. The darker part is what the paint was meant to distract you from, because once the procession ended and the door shut, the marriage stopped being theater and became enforcement. Even in broad overviews of Roman weddings, you can see the outline of what's coming in the language itself. The domum deductio, leading to the house, that reads like romance until you remember it was often framed like a ritualized abduction. The night Roman brides feared most was not feared because it was unknown. It was feared because every woman knew just enough to dread it and not enough to prepare. Mothers did not describe it, men joked about it, the law assumed it, religion blessed it, and history, when it was written, preferred to glide past it with elegant phrases and respectful silence. Livia is 19, and she has spent the entire day smiling until her cheeks ache. She has been praised for her calm, for her grace, for how fortunate she is. Fortunate because the man she is marrying is not a boy with soft hands and nervous laughter. He is Marcus Claudius Varro, 38, a man with a rising political future and the kind of composure Rome teaches its elite men to wear like armor. She met him twice. The first time was a formal presentation in her father's atrium, a place that had always smelled like olive oil and clean stone, a place that had always been hers by familiarity, if not by legal right. Marcus spoke to her father far more than he spoke to her. They talked dowry and alliances and land, the practical bones of marriage. Livia stood there in a new tunic and tried to read her future in Marcus's face. He looked at her the way a man looks at a door he intends to own, briefly, not admiring, already imagining how it will open for him. The second time, the contract was already decided. The conversation was ceremonial, words meant to reassure witnesses rather than comfort a bride. Marcus's courtesy did not feel warm. It felt correct. And what frightened Livia wasn't the idea that he might be cruel. Cruelty at least has a shape. What frightened her was that he might be indifferent. Because indifference is the kind of power that doesn't bother to apologize. On the morning of the wedding, her mother does not give her advice the way stories claim mothers do. There is no romantic instruction, no whispered giggle, no tender reassurance about love. Her mother helps dress her with hands that tremble once, just once, then steady into practiced ritual. The veil goes on, and the world becomes saffron-colored. The cloth smells faintly of dye and smoke and something bitter. Maybe the herbs used to store it. Maybe the fear soaking into it from generations of girls before her. The knot at her waist is tied carefully. It is an old symbol, a famous one, the nodus herculaneus, the so-called knot of Hercules, meant to represent fertility and the groom's right to untie it. Modern summaries of Roman wedding tradition still highlight that knot because it's vivid and memorable, tying the knot, literally, as part of the marriage costume. Livia watches her mother's fingers tighten the final loop and sees something in her mother's face that she has never seen before, not fully. Not anger, not sadness alone. Something like resignation sharpened into warning. Will it hurt? Livia asks, because she cannot step into darkness without asking at least one question. Her mother does not answer at first. She adjusts the veil. She smooths the fabric as if smoothing it could smooth the future. Then she says, "It will be over by morning. Not it will be fine. Not he will be kind. Not you will be safe. Just, it will be over." And even that sounds like a prayer spoken by someone who doesn't fully trust the gods. The wedding feast blurs into sound and motion. Men toast, women press kisses to her cheeks. Someone praises her father. Someone praises Marcus. Someone praises the joining of houses, as if Livia is a hallway between properties rather than a person. Livia watches Marcus across the room and tries to predict the night from the way he holds himself. He laughs without showing his teeth. He drinks slowly. He looks relaxed but not joyful. When he touches her hand for the public ritual, fingers to fingers, his skin is cool, his grip is steady. That steadiness should be comforting. Instead, it makes her think of a lock turning. As the sun begins to sink, the house changes. Slaves move faster. Lamps are prepared. Torches are gathered. Musicians shift into the songs reserved for the procession, the songs that sound like celebration if you ignore the words, because the words matter. The procession is magnificent and obscene at once. Torches flare against the darkening street. Music rides on the air. Guests shout traditional jokes meant to protect the bride through vulgarity and laughter, as if crude humor can turn fear into good fortune. Livia hears fragments through her veil. Jests about the bed, about the night, about what the groom will do, about what the bride will sound like. Men laugh like it's harmless. Women smile like it's required. Livia walks like she is moving through a dream where every step is hers, and not hers at the same time. Marcus walks beside her, composed. He acknowledges greetings like a man taking office. He looks ahead more than he looks at her, as if she has already become part of his household inventory and no longer requires attention. The streets of Rome narrow and widen in waves. The torches throw moving shadows up walls painted with gods and heroes. Neighbors lean from windows to watch. Children stare. Old men grin. Some women look away quickly, as if watching too long would invite memory. And then they reach Marcus's house. The crowd gathers at the doorway. The threshold waits, that thin strip of wood and stone that separates a woman's old life from her new one. Livia's mother stands nearby, because tradition requires it, and because a mother's presence is supposed to sanctify what happens next, even if sanctification feels like a lie. Livia is not allowed to step inside. Hands lift her. For a moment she is weightless, and the terror of it is physical. The crowd cheers. The custom is famous even outside Roman history. The bride carried over the threshold. Some sources discuss the uncertainty over which threshold and when exactly it was done, but the ritual itself is repeatedly noted as part of Roman wedding practice. Livia feels the symbolism like a bruise. You do not carry someone unless you want to remind her she is being taken. Rome offered explanations, bad omens, stumbling, tradition, but the gesture says its own truth. She is delivered. Inside, the air is cooler. The house smells of oil lamps, stone, and the quiet authority of wealth. A ritual of fire and water follows, symbols of domestic duty. She is led to the household shrine, instructed to honor the spirits who guard Marcus's lineage. She is introduced to slaves who bow, not to Livia as herself, but to Livia as a new role in a system that still belongs to Marcus. Then comes the phrase, spoken like a spell. "Where you are, Marcus, I am." Livia hesitates. The matron guiding her gives a look that says, "Do not falter now." Livia forces the words out. "I am Gaia." The guests cheer, as if it's charming, as if it doesn't erase something. Gaia is the traditional bride name, a formula that suggests her identity is now defined by her husband's place. It is Rome compressing a woman into function and teaching her to smile while it does. The party thins. The music fades. The torches outside dim. This is the moment people pretend is simply the end of the wedding. For Livia, it feels like the beginning of judgment. A married matron, chosen because her own marriage is considered auspicious, takes Livia toward the bedchamber. The woman is practical, not cruel, but that practicality itself is chilling because it means she has done this before, watched other girls do this before, watched fear become routine. "You'll do as you're expected," the matron says softly. Livia's mouth is dry. "And if I can't?" The matron's face doesn't change, but her voice lowers. "Then you do not make it worse." They enter the bedchamber. It is decorated like a lie. Flowers, fine linen, soft lamplight meant to flatter, incense heavy enough to feel like it's trying to smother thought. The marriage bed is large and formal, the lectus genialis, prepared as a symbol of union, as if union is what happens when a door closes. The matron removes the bridal elements, veil, wreath, outer layers, stripping away public identity piece by piece. Each removal feels like counting down. "I will be outside," she says, and her voice catches for just a fraction of a second. "Until I know it is done." "How will you know?" Livia asks before she can stop herself. The matron holds her gaze, and in her silence is the answer: evidence, sounds, proof. Rome is obsessed with proof even here. And the matron leaves, and the silence that follows is violent. Livia stands alone, hearing her heartbeat, smelling incense, feeling the air on her skin as if the room itself is already touching her. She thinks of her mother's hands tying the knot. She thinks of the words, "It will be over by morning." She thinks of what nobody said. The door opens. Marcus enters. He has removed the toga, the public armor of the Roman male. He wears a simple tunic now, practical, almost indifferent. In his hand he carries a cup of wine, and he drinks as he steps inside, as if this is merely the final toast of the day. He closes the door behind him. The click is quiet, final. He looks at her for a long moment, then sets the cup down with controlled precision. He circles her slowly, as if he is measuring, memorizing. "You're shaking," he says. "Yes," Livia manages. He nods as if she has confirmed something expected. "That is normal." His voice is calm, not kind, not openly cruel, clinical. And that clinical tone is the most terrifying thing, because cruelty can be hated and resisted in the mind. Clinical entitlement offers nothing to fight. It offers only inevitability. Marcus steps closer and reaches for the knot at her waist. Livia's hands twitch, instinctively moving to help, because she has been taught to be helpful, to anticipate, to serve. He stops her with a look. "I will do it," he says. His fingers work the knot with practiced ease. The knot that myth wraps in heroism. The knot that makes possession sound sacred. The knot loosens, and Livia feels the shift in cloth and the shift in her life at the same time. He draws her closer, guides her toward the bed with a hand at her elbow. Not rough, not gentle, certain. "Lie down," he says. She obeys, and now the secret ritual, the one Rome cleans up for history, completes itself. Not the public ritual with torches and songs, the private one, the claiming. I'm not going to describe explicit anatomy because the horror is not in the mechanics. The horror is in the structure. The horror is that Rome, capable of aqueducts, poetry, philosophy, and law, built a marriage system where a girl's fear was treated as normal background noise. The details of any wedding night could vary from man to man, but the meaning was consistent. The marriage bed was where a public contract became a private reality. Livia's experience is pain and shock and the desperate mental distance a person creates when the body must endure what the mind cannot fully accept. She focuses on surviving each moment because the only promise she was given was that it would end. Outside the door, the matron waits like an auditor. Somewhere else in the house, slaves move quietly, pretending not to hear, because in Rome the powerless survive by not witnessing too clearly what everyone knows is happening. When it is done, Marcus stands, adjusts his clothing, and speaks as if concluding a legal formality. "Tomorrow," he says, "Sabina will instruct you in the household. You will learn quickly." Then he leaves. Livia does not move for a long time. She stares at the ceiling as lamplight flickers into shifting shadows. Her body aches. Her throat feels tight. Her mind feels strangely quiet, as if it has sealed itself off to protect what remains. She thinks of her childhood home, the atrium where she learned to walk, the feeling of closing her own door. The small freedoms she never understood were freedoms until they were gone. She understands, with a clarity that makes her nauseous, that the wedding night was not the ending of ceremony. It was the beginning of ownership. Morning arrives like a verdict. Livia washes with cold water. She dresses in the clothing laid out for her. Matron's clothing, not maiden's. It fits like a uniform. When Livia looks into the polished bronze mirror, she expects ruin. She expects her face to confess the night. But she looks the same. That is the ritual's cruelty. The world demands normalcy, sunlight, silence. Outside the chamber stands Sabina, the steward, noting Livia's careful posture. "You lived," she says. Livia swallows. "Yes." Sabina nods. "Good. Now we work." And now the story shifts, because the night Roman brides feared most was not feared only because of what happened once. It was feared because it was the doorway into a system. The secret ritual wasn't just consummation. It was the conversion of a girl into an instrument of household and lineage. Sabina moves Livia through the house with brisk precision. Kitchens, storerooms, accounts, the shrine, the slave quarters, the spinning baskets. Everything has a place. Everyone has a role. And Livia learns fast, because fear is an excellent teacher. She learns how Marcus likes his meals timed. She learns which slaves are loyal and which are frightened. She learns what household tasks are truly hers and what tasks belong to Sabina's quiet authority. She learns that power inside a Roman house is not a single chain. It is a web, and she must find where she can hold it without being strangled by it. At night, the bedchamber becomes the place where that web tightens. Some nights Marcus comes, some nights he doesn't. Livia learns his rhythms the way prisoners learn guards' routes. When he feels powerful, he is restrained. When he feels threatened, he reminds himself he owns her. She learns his footsteps, his tone, how anticipation earns a fragile mercy. Not love, just reduced danger. Slowly, she learns something Rome never recorded. Roman women talk, not in public, but in courtyards, bathhouses, and doorways between errands. They pass survival knowledge quietly, how to summon servants without accusation, how to keep allies, how to plan for emergencies without naming them. Aurelia visits and asks nothing aloud, but her eyes ask everything. Livia answers by still being alive. Then, the nausea comes. Pregnancy brings terror and leverage. In Rome, childbirth is a gamble with death, but an heir makes a wife harder to discard. Marcus changes, not with kindness but care, as one handles a valuable vessel. Richer food, fewer visits, more attention. Labor is brutal. Women gather while men stay away. A son is born. Pride replaces pain. Her status changes. She survives, and survival becomes her quiet power.